Welcome to How Would You Write It, the podcast where I, your host, Nania Taylor, get a chance to sit down with creatives and find out the story behind the story. Today, I get a chance to sit down with a true creative force, Kyla Sylvers, an actor, writer, director, and producer whose work has reached millions, screened in over 50 cinemas, and made waves across festivals and major platforms, including the WWE. Kyla is known for crafting bold, genre-bending stories that center Black women in powerful, complex worlds. From her dystopian sci-fi podcast, The Death of Bees and Other Things That Sting. I just got to say that again because I love this title. The Death of Bees and Other Things That Sting, to her epic sci-fi fantasy novel, Egatu, A New World Order. She's building universes that challenge power, identity, and survival itself. This is going to be a good one, guys, so stick around. Let's talk, let's talk, let's talk. Welcome, Kyla. Thank you so much for coming on How Would You Write It?
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I just have one little thing, and I want to tell you right now, it is not your fault. It is my mom's fault, so don't even think too much of it. I should have said this beforehand, but it's technically pronounced Kayla. It's spelled like Kyla. I know. Don't even worry about it.
Oh my gosh.
But it is spelled like Kyla, so if someone just listens to this, it really is Kyla. That is a whole nother story that we could do a whole nother podcast.
Okay. I know why your mom did it though, because your last name Sylvers is spelled with SYLVERS, and so I understand why she did Kayla as KYLA.
She has like 3 different stories why she spelled it that way. I kid you not, like at a birthday party a few years ago, because her birthday is like 2 days before mine. So she was at like a birthday thing that we were doing. And one of my friends literally was like, excuse me, and like call her by her last name. It was like, why did you spell Kayla's name that way? And she went into like a whole story. It's ridiculous. But yes, I didn't even think about that at first. Like, oh my God, it's pronounced Kayla. But it is spelled like Kyla, so that is no one's fault. But yeah, it's ridiculous.
It's ridiculous, but I totally understand what your mom was doing there as a creative. I could see it. I was like, well, I see the vision. I see the vision. Well, Kayla Sylvers, thank you for coming on How Would You Write It? If we have time, you're going to tell us the story of why your mom named you, wrote your name as Kyla. Yeah. Kayla. Now, you move between acting, writing, directing, and producing. So where does the real Kayla show up first? In your performance or control behind the camera?
Oh, that's a good question. I think that I am pretty. I think there was a time where I would probably say acting, and then there was a time where I'd probably say writing. Mm-hmm. I think right now I'm pretty, the two like kind of exist together, especially with something like the pod where I'm kind of writing and performing in it. I think that both of them, writing and acting in particular, not directing, not producing, but writing and acting in particular, are like the 2 great loves in my life, and I'm like in a poly relationship with them. So it really kind of depends on the day, because like when I'm writing, I feel like so at ease and like so free and calm, and then when I go to perform, even on the pod, just like performing on the mic, I also feel so at ease, so free and calm, and I feel like alive in this way. And I feel like they both sort of offer me 2 different like feelings of life, and excitement in a way that like nothing else really does. So I would say that the real Kayla is like a fusion of those 2 things. And then when it comes to something like producing or directing, I started producing out of necessity, because when I was auditioning and when I was writing, you have to kind of get a lot of approval
Mhm.
by a lot of different people for
Yeah.
things that you shouldn't
Hmm.
have to get approved or whatever. And so there's just like so many people that you have to um talk to get anything made, and most of the time it's not going to get made. Or there's so many people who you have to impress if you're an actor,
Yeah.
and most of the time you're not going to get it.
Mhm.
So I started to be like, okay, well, if I want to be an artist who wants to make things, am I going to like wait for someone to tell me that I can make it,
Are you gonna
or am
build
I
that
going
doggone
to
table?
exactly? And so directing was something I was always interested in, and I like studied in school a little bit too. I started like directing on stage, realized that wasn't really for me, and then I was kind of observing other directors for a long time before I decided to do it myself. And that's just another way of taking control of the things that I create.
Uh-huh.
And I've like really fallen in love with directing, but I would say like my first two like loves and like my main boos
Your man
are
boo, the top boo.
right, right, are my acting and my writing. Those are like my two things that like if I'm doing those two things at any point in life, I'm like, huh, I'm
Yeah.
good. You know what I mean? So
Oh,
that's how I feel about them.
I love that. It's almost like a spiritual thing. I can feel that from you. I love that.
Yeah.
Your work centers Black women in genre spaces that historically sideline them. What
Hmm.
truth are you correcting every time you sit down and write? Because you're a sci-fi girly like me, and you never
Hmm.
really see us. Like I think what the last time we saw was what is my girl's name in Predator?
Ooh, I haven't even
Tonight
seen the new
Latham in
Predators.
Predator,
Oh yeah,
really as
yeah.
like the main lead character, you know.
Hmm.
So
And you know what's funny? Um, I'm gonna just say it. I'm gonna just say it because we're here. So growing up, I really, really, really love Zoe Saldana. Now,
mhm.
you know, other thoughts on her. But growing up, she was like the only black girl in like any kind of major science fiction thing she's
I know they
everywhere.
put
She
her
was
in
in
Star Trek as
they put her in Star Trek. She was in Avatar. She was in all the things. She's in some of the she was in what was she when she was green? Guardians of the Galaxy. You know, so she was like the main face of all these things. And I remember she did an interview in like the early 2000s where she was like kind of crowned like the queen of sci-fi. And I just remember like, you know, I grew up loving like Lord of the Rings and Chronicles of Narnia and Star Trek and Star Wars and so that was like the only like consistent face I was seeing and everything. And then you did have those sort of like breakouts. You did have like Sanaa and certain things. And now we have, you know, our girl who was leading like the Star Trek spinoff, the TV show that was on and stuff like that. But I do think that it's still like a very limited genre and not even like, oh, there's a black person and Donald Glover's in Star Wars, right? It's not even just that. It's like there are not like you think of the big ones, right? There are not fantasy worlds that are mostly black people or just mostly people of color, right? Like every single one is white spaces that maybe people of color are in. And that includes everything from zombies to vampires to, I mean, look at how Bonnie was done on Vampire Diaries, you know, so there's all these
oh,
different
we can have a whole show
about Bonnie.
about Bonnie. I am
Right.
still upset with that.
And then there are other ones that one of my favorite shows of all time is Orphan Black, right?
Yeah,
And
Orphan Black.
like art, yeah, and like art is on Orphan Black, sure, but you know, for the most part, it's about Tatiana Maslany's
Yeah,
character.
yeah.
And so there's all these different like innovative shows that don't really feature or movies that don't really feature like people of color and stuff. And I just remember thinking like in all these like fantasy worlds, y'all like don't think we're there. Like what?
Listen, they don't
Like
even think we're in the
this,
future. They don't even think we're in the future. Half these, like I watch stuff, and like it'd be sci-fi, it'd be the future. They go to the future, you don't see not one black person.
you don't see one black person. And
I said, did we
I'm
not make
like, that's what I'm saying. And there's so many of us, and some of the
it?
countries with the
Mm-hmm.
highest birth rates are majority black countries. So
Uh-huh.
that's when I'm like, and like we're a large amount of the world right now. So I'm
Yeah.
like, what are we? what are we talking about? Like, of course we would be there. Black people are everywhere,
Yes.
everywhere, everywhere.
Yes.
Even places people don't think Black people are,
I
we
know.
are. You know what I mean? So I'm
Yes.
always just like, why do we never exist in these like fantastical worlds that y'all be coming up with?
Mm-hmm.
So it just like really bothered me because I really liked those. I love genre things and genre bending things.
Mm-hmm.
But the only face I really saw growing up was Zoe, you know. So I
And you didn't
and
even
I
see her really because they covered up her blackness in makeup
green,
and
blue,
AI,
yep,
so
every other color, yep,
the only way she got to be a black woman was Star Trek, and I was
Star
still upset with that
Trek.
because I'm not a colorist, but I grew up with my mom is darker skinned than me, my sister's darker
Mm-hmm.
skinned than me, and where I grew up, even I was considered dark skinned. Like I was considered, if I was not red bone light skin, I was not,
Mm-hmm.
you know.
Mm-hmm.
And so growing up with that, I'm more like I see dark skin as beautiful. So when I saw Nyota, did I freeze?
I can still see you
Okay,
clear
you
as day.
frozen on my side. And
Okay.
yeah, there we go. So when I saw uh what is her Nicole Nichols playing
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Nyota Uhura, I was
Mm-hmm.
like, oh my God. And I'm not
Mm-hmm.
saying Zoe didn't do a great job as Uhura.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I still want, just like I want a dark skinned Storm, I
Mm-hmm.
still want to see that. And I'm like,
And I am like such a huge Halle Berry fan. Like I
I
love
love
her,
Holly Berry.
love her. But and
We
she
all
was
know.
fine at Storm for the like 3 lines that she had. But that's a whole other thing too on how she was a friggin' Oscar winner at the time,
And
and
they
you
gave her
cast
three
her and
lines.
you give her like 4 lines. Like she should have been casted, but if you're gonna cast Halle Berry, give her more lines. Like what are we doing?
And plus,
So
they never gave her power. Like she's supposed to be one of
she's
a mega,
OP. Mm-hmm.
and
Mm-hmm.
they treat her powers like she's a weakling. And I'm just like,
Yep. That's a whole yeah. So
she has a baby
and
for
that's what
Thor.
I mean.
Like,
That's
come on.
another example of what I mean. Like you don't imagine us there, and then if you do imagine us there, you weaken our powers, you dampen us, you dampen our lights
Mm-hmm.
in favor of white people.
Yeah.
In favor of the Hugh Jackmans or whoever. And don't get me wrong, I love Hugh Jackman, but like, so it it just like bothered me.
And so
And
you said what was gonna have to change is I'm gonna have to change it.
exactly. Yes. And it's also too like we had like African American culture has so much folklore, belief systems, things that you can like pull from um to create these narratives. And I remember when Sinners came out,
Mm-hmm.
and I love Sinners. I love Ryan Coogler. I've been following him for a long time. We both went to USC. Like, I love Ryan Coogler. But when Sinners came out, I remember all these people talking about, oh, we need more movies like this. We need more movies that incorporate like our spiritual practices and da da da. And I'm just, as a writer, sitting there like, oh, like there's so many people who write these scripts.
Write
They
it.
write
Yeah.
movies, they write these TV shows, and they're great. I'm in the writers' rooms. I'm one of those people. There's a bunch of other ones who are just not getting to the table.
Yeah.
Ryan Coogler had to make multiple billion-dollar movies before
For
they
them to
even
even
give
get the
him a
chance.
seat
Yeah.
at the table. You know
Mm-hmm.
what I mean? So it's like, no, people are writing these scripts. It's not that we're not writing them or we need to make more. They're there and they're great.
Mm-hmm.
And if they aren't perfect, they can be made into something great. And you
Just
guys are
like they
just
give
not,
everybody else a chance. Yeah.
I mean, I've had representation tell me directly to my face, like with scripts that placed in major comps and were really good, like, oh, this script is great, but we need to change XYZ so that the white executives will understand it because they don't understand this folklore. That's what they're saying to us in those rooms, if we're getting into the rooms at all. I'm just a lucky one who got to get into a few rooms, but like that's what they're saying, So of course you're not getting more sinners because
Mm-hmm.
yeah, but anyway.
But my answer to the white executive who's never seen any black folklore. What did he think about Lord of the Rings? What
A
did he think
completely made up
about
universe.
Harry Potter? Like
Right.
these are made up. Somebody flipped in their head and they plopped it down, and they don't have to know they don't have to know the behinds of that. But when it comes to
Because
Black
you're going to learn
culture,
it in the story. First of all, if it's a
you're
good
good. Yeah, you're
story,
gonna
you're
learn
going
it
to
in the story.
figure out the rules of the world in the story as you follow the characters, as you follow the plot. You're going to learn those things anyway, right? But why is it with Black stories you need to have everything up front, which is then going to make our stories nonsensical, because then you
Mm-hmm.
lose the character arc, you lose the plot, because you need us to write everything down for you. You
You
know,
got to take a Black
it's
character out, put a white character in, because we need to have somebody that they can appeal to.
right. And then
Yeah.
that's another thing too, like, you know, one of the reasons I'm excited for something like Children of Blood and Bone is because it ain't no white people, and well, later there is, spoiler alert, but there isn't any white people like in that like first book, really. You know what I mean? Because it's the other thing too. If we do make some there, because even Black Panther, it's got to be like a token white person there, and it's like, but like there are societies that exist with
That
just white
don't.
people,
Yeah.
and y'all been making movies forever with
Mhm.
just white people. And we have been conditioned to watch those and even enjoy those,
Yeah.
right? So it's like, why is it that you cannot watch our stuff and enjoy it if it's just Black people?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
You'll find a lot of them be like, oh, I love not the Jeffersons, Good Times or something like that. They
Mm-hmm.
know these stories, but you do have some who can only watch us either making fools of ourselves or, you
And
know,
that's the other thing. Those are comedies, and there's nothing wrong with comedies. There's
no,
nothing
no,
wrong
no, I'm
with
talking
that,
about
right?
like some reality shows,
Yes.
Yeah.
And then even with like something like the Jeffersons or even Insecure, because I know quite a few white people that watch Insecure, you know, white people always think Black people funny. You know, they always want us to do a dance for them. And that's not to say that Black comedy isn't brilliant, because oh my God, it's so brilliant, right? But it's like they can digest Black comedy fine, right? It's when we get into riding dragons or, you know, doing
Yes.
magic that it's
Yes.
like, why are there so many Black people? And it's like, why can't there be, like, we have our own belief systems, we have our own types of vampires we believe in and stuff like that, like we
Yes.
have our own thing, you know what I mean?
We have our own
and
own things.
and so it's very much so um kind of ridiculous, you know, that nothing like that has been made, you know, on the big screen. I don't want to say ridiculous or surprising, because it's not surprising, but it is kind of like, you know, I didn't want to like sit around and wait for those things to be made, you know. In some ways I still have to if I want to make like a big feature or something, because you just need so much money. But when it comes to like shorts or web series and just getting like some of those ideas out there and just getting people used to those things and seeing those things beyond just the big blockbusters is important to me. So
But I'm glad you decided to go into that space because your voice needs to be heard.
yeah.
Now, I want to talk to you about the death of bees and other things that sting. Your protagonist is isolated, piecing
Mm-hmm.
together memory and identity.
Mm-hmm.
What does that say about how we process trauma in a broken world?
Ooh, good question. Okay, so I think particularly for this character, um, I think even like as we exist now, right? It's so hard to process your personal grievances and
Mm.
also deal with everything going on in the world. It's like, oh my God, I already got so much going on. And then I have to like see this, and this. And I think that's a big part of sort of what's happening to Jordy as well. Of like, I can't remember nothing that's going on. The last thing I remember that did happen wasn't so great. And then I'm like in the middle of nowhere and there's no one around. There's so many things I need to figure out, you know? And so I think that for her, it really is like an exploration of like, how do I deal with that?
Yeah.
And what do I focus on?
Mhm.
Right? Like, do I focus on getting out of here? Do I focus on finding my sister? Do I focus on trying to contact somebody? Like, what exactly do I focus on? And I think we do have to deal with that a lot in the real world too, of like,
Yeah.
okay, what am I going to focus on? I can't like deal with all of this.
Mhm.
So like where
What
can
can
I
I
put my
deal with right now that
exactly
will make me get up tomorrow and keep going?
exactly. And then maybe the thing that I deal with now can
Mhm.
help me to solve those other problems later. You
Mhm.
know what I mean? And so I think that that's kind of how she's trying to come at it, especially after she does find the radio because she says like and
You know
I
what? You know what I didn't ask you? Give us a brief synopsis or brief kind of what the death of bees and other things that Sting is about.
yes. Okay. So basically, the death of bees, the other thing I'm saying is about this girl named Jordy Rivers. She wakes up in this house in the middle of nowhere and she cannot remember how she got there. She goes out, the house is like in the middle of a forest. She goes out through the forest, like walks around everywhere. She cannot find anyone for miles. Like there's nothing in sight. And so she does this for like a few days and then eventually she finds a radio in the house and she's like, oh my god, there's this radio, maybe I can reach somebody this way. And she tries to like reach out to people and like to show them that she's a person with a story. She starts to kind of share her story and she talks about how she's kind of looking for her twin sister because the last thing she does remember before she ended up in this house is she watched her sister go off into a spaceship. She can't remember if it blew up or if it disappeared because she couldn't really tell from where she was watching. So she's like worried about her twin sister. She wants to know the fate of her twin sister, but she also just like wants to find someone because maybe they'll lead her to her sister. So it's one of those things of like, I have no idea where I am. I have no idea how to get to my sister, but maybe if I can like contact someone, maybe if they hear me on this radio, if I share my story, somebody will be like, oh, I lived here too, or I did this too. I know what you mean. I saw this, and they'll connect with her and they'll reach out. Um, and it's through her sharing her story that she starts to realize that things that have happened to her in her life
Yeah.
um, may directly connect to how she can escape this house.
So, where did the inspiration of the story come from?
Ooh, okay. I'm trying to like talk. I want to talk about the inspiration without like, well, 5 episodes are out, so I may spoil a little bit. But basically, so this story came from this idea of like we I don't want to say we don't live in a dystopian society, but we live in like a very like it kind of feels dystopian sometimes. And there's always like this dependence on Black women to like save everybody, whether that's Kamala, whoever it is. We're supposed to be the person who's going to save everybody, right? And with this show, I wanted to create something where the world is at its end and of course there are people who want Black women to save them while at the same time there are people who want to strip them of their power, right? Because if Black women cannot solve this problem, then they know that the problem unfortunately isn't going to be solved. So and they want that to be the case. They want this world to continue to suffer so that they can hold power, and they know that these Black women are going to block them from being able to hold that power. So
Yeah.
that's kind of where the idea came from, like how I just see the world now and how there are a lot of Black women like constantly saving it. And this was the idea. With this idea, like Jordy and Mel were kind of born of like they're two like very, very, very powerful women who have been stripped of their agency by someone who doesn't want them to realize how powerful they are, by
Wow.
someone who wants them to remain lesser than, right? And so these are obviously things that unfold later throughout the story. We kind of learn who that person is, what power they actually want, et cetera, et cetera. But that's where the idea came from, like how as Black women do you exist as a person in a world that's falling apart while also doing your best to keep it from falling apart further,
Mm-hmm.
you know,
Mm-hmm.
without like overwhelming yourself in the process, you know. There's a reason why Black women come to save people essentially is because we want a better world for ourselves too, you know. And so we know how to get that, and we know what the world should look like,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and we want to get there, but at the same time we're like kind of carrying the world on our back because nobody's really helping us, you know.
Yeah.
So that's like I know I'm kind of dancing around a little bit without trying to spoil it, but that's kind of where this idea came from, really from like observing the world and observing, you know, American politics in particular in a
Yeah.
lot of ways too. You know, this
Mm-hmm.
podcast takes place in Chicago, which is where I'm located. Um and kind of yeah, so that's where it came from.
Now, why a podcast for this story? What does
Ooh,
audio storytelling give you that film and TV couldn't?
um, it requires less money.
I mean, listen, okay?
It requires less money. So I have done many a fundraiser for my filmmaking career, and I've made some great films and web series, and all those things have done like relatively well. And for at least for an independent filmmaker.
Uh-huh.
And so the reason I chose audio was because okay, this little mic that I have, I was pitching a feature film in a film festival, and sure, I'm like I'm about to do like a brand thing right now. There was a mic company who was sponsoring it, and they gave us all of these mics. And I just have this like really expensive podcast mic. It's like an amazing microphone.
Uh-huh.
And I was like, oh, I really want to make a film, but I've won grants and stuff like that before, but grants are really competitive. I didn't really want to fundraise anymore. And I was like, okay, what can I make that doesn't require a lot of money, is an interesting story, and that can be told over audio in a compelling way. And the
Mm-hmm.
thing is, I listen to a lot of scripted podcasts. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
so I listen to your Magnus Archives, your Lime Towns, your what's the one that was made into an Amazon show that I didn't like, Homecoming. So I listen to like I've been a connoisseur of scripted podcasts for a while. And so I've already like know the medium to a degree. And so I was like, okay, single narrator, right? Because I can't really afford to pay anyone right now. So it'll just be me, at least pay actors right now. Because I'm at the point with my company where like I mostly pay people.
Mm-hmm.
Because at first it was just like, you know, kind of exchange. And then as you build and you win grants or whatever, you start to pay people. And so once you like kind of go into paying people, it's kind of hard to like go back from
Yeah.
that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so it like I still do like volunteer projects, but very sporadically, and it usually is a low commitment. This was a little bit of a bigger commitment, so I was like,
Yeah.
okay, I'm doing myself. Um, and so that's kind of where it came from. And I have been thinking of a single narrator podcast for a while. And I wanted something, yes, that offers itself to the narrative, and I mean to that type of storytelling. Sorry, I
Yeah.
rephrase. And so um telling a single narrator story where we're kind of following this one person. They're on a radio. It's almost like meta in that way because they're like
Yeah.
talking to you almost.
Mm-hmm.
Felt like it worked best. That works best in a podcast format, right?
Yeah.
Because she's talking to you. It's on a radio, and so that's kind of why I chose to do it that way. So it started with affordability, and then that kind of trickled down into what kind of story can I tell? Because I don't want to, again, like we were talking about earlier, I don't want to stop storytelling because people didn't give me permission to storytell or didn't give me money to storytell. I don't want to like stop
Yeah.
doing it because of that. So that's kind of where it came from. And this idea I have been like I said, I've been listening to scripted podcasts for years. So I have been like thinking about this and restructuring it for like 2 years before I actually put it on. And part of that was because I didn't have a proper mic, and then I like got this mic. So I was like, let me
That
just
was
do
like
it.
that was kind of a sign right there.
I know.
Now, the title alone, the death
Uh-huh.
of bees and other things that sting,
Mm-hmm.
feels metaphorical. What's
Yeah.
the sting your audience doesn't see coming? If you are going to tell us, are you going to tell us?
Oh, I will say this because it's not a spoiler, but you're gonna be like, her memory
Uh-huh.
issue that she's having when her memory is being wiped is being done by someone close to her.
Her sister?
It's being
Her
done by someone.
mom? Her brother? Her lover? The old lady across the street?
No. And it's through the pod. It's so funny. It's actually the episodes that I'm recording now because I
Uh-huh.
had to. My old sound designer got like an internship. I'm so happy for her. So I had to find like a new sound designer. So in the episodes that I'm recording now,
Mm-hmm.
she's beginning to understand who's been wiping her memories.
Oh my
She
goodness.
just doesn't
Okay, I
know
tried.
why.
I
Yeah.
tried, everybody, to get the answer for you. You see how she holding on. But where can we find the podcast, ma'am?
You can literally find a podcast wherever you get your pods. So like Apple Pods, Spotify, like Pocket Cast, like literally everywhere. It's in like 10, 15 different places. It's super easy to find. You can also find it on my YouTube. Melanin and Magic Productions is on my YouTube as well. And yeah, so the next set of episodes is gonna start to kind of she's gonna start putting stuff together on like who has been like wiping her memories, and then of course we're going to get into the why they've been wiping her memories, and then how she can sort of like restore them. So it's really um really cool. I'm really excited.
I'm excited for you. Because I'm gonna go and listen to everything. Okay,
Yes, please do.
and I suggest everyone watching go listen to.
Yes, they're only 20-minute episodes too, so super easy, like in your car on your way
Or
wherever,
on the way
or
to the gym, on the
cooking,
way to
or
pick up the kids.
yeah, it's a super easy listen. And I will say, everybody who's listening, is always, if I know them personally, always text me like, oh my god, I'm hooked, da, da, da. I had a friend text me like, he was like, oh my god, I think this would make such a good video game. I've had like random people on TikTok like tell me that they really liked it and are super hooked. Another friend wants to see it as a TV show. So I promise you, it is like really, really, really good. I think all the episodes are great. My personal favorites, I think right now, are episodes 3 and episode 5. Although episode 2 is kind of good too, but they're all like really, really good. And I'm really excited for it, and I'm excited for like the next cycle of
Iteration.
episodes.
Okay, I'm
Yeah.
excited too. I'm so
Yeah.
excited. Let's talk about Egatu, a new
Oh,
world order.
oh my gosh, what a journey I've been on with this.
Now, this world is built on power, segregation, and a disease tied to intimacy. Why you do that to these people? It's already dystopia. What what uncomfortable real world parallels were you intentionally leaning into?
So I love to give people like the log line.
Mhm.
Um, is for the novel. So basically, like on an all black planet, far
Mhm.
out in the universe, a jaded princess and a stubborn queen who have like a strange relationship have to come together to save their planet from internal and external forces that are trying to like wreak havoc on like their homeland. So that's basically like the shortest premise I can give you
Mhm.
of the book. But there's like so much other stuff happening in regards to like the environment. Like the planet itself is like half of it's like hostile and could like kill them. Um, there's like a lot of like religious and spirituality explorations. A
Mhm.
third of the planet has superpowers, and they use that to like um hold other power like royalty and stuff like that. There's a lot of like royals. There's also like this imbalanced caste system that's in place because of this, because of these powers and like things that come along with those powers. And so there's like this kind of brewing civil war that's bubbling at the surface due to the unfair treatment of the non-powered. And with this, I know you asked another question about what was the next question, because I feel like my next answer is the next question.
The world is built on power, segregation, and disease tied to intimacy.
Yeah.
What uncomfortable real world parallels were you intentionally leaning into?
Yes. So that was, the next part. So this whole idea came from what I was thinking about it one day of what if our ancestors knew what was going to come of us in America and they decided to close their borders and be like, right? And we just kept our society. Would we be any better or worse without the white supremacist influence? Right. And so when
that's a good question.
Yeah. And so when I look at Black American culture, right, I observe in our community and with our conversation, I observe the misogyny, the homophobia, the economic imbalances that we have even in our own community, how we look at each other if we're less educated or if we have less money. We also like can look down on one another. And so this planet and this society and this book came from that idea of how would we actually function as a society if we were separate. And there's this really fascinating thing of like, a lot of people always talk about like, oh, we were kings and queens, right? And like, okay, well, if we were to start our own separate society away from white supremacy, of course we would go and create royalty again, right? Some kind of monarch, because we were king and queens and they wanted to be kings and queens so bad. And so what would that society look like? And I think that without the racial issue, and we see this now, like I said, within our community now, I think that there unfortunately would be some kind of caste system. People are going to find a way to separate themselves.
Yeah.
Right. And so that's like where this idea came from. And what I want to do with the book is eventually figure out, I want the characters in the book and the plot and everything, like my end goal for the book is like, how do they get to a point where they've created a world that is more like what the world should be? You know what I mean?
Yeah. Listen, you find an answer and write that in the book, hand that over to the world leaders now, honey.
Right?
You've taken this from a semi-finalist pilot to a novel. What changed the story when you stopped writing for the screen and start writing for the page?
Ooh, I was really, and this was one of the things that I remember people saying to me when they did read the pilot. I was really able to expand the world and focus on the planet. Because when I first came up with it, there's going to be a dying Earth that came to this planet to kind of try to conquer them, right? This all Black planet that they thought they could just sort of take over, and that wasn't going to work out. And I remember a lot of people saying, before we jump to all the stuff with Earth, why don't we sit with this planet and like what's going on this planet, like, and see what that's like, right? And so eventually I pulled back the pilot to like observe that more, but the book allowed me to go even further. Like there's a whole map of the planet, and I got to explore different cultures, different languages, different religions, all these different things that I really wanted to explore, but I don't think the medium of TV would have allowed me to explore, one, because they weren't going to buy it outright anyway. They're never going to buy anything that costs that much. But and
they did
that's
Lord
the
of the
other thing.
Rings.
Right. But even that was based on a book, right? So But yeah, so I think that the book allowed me to really explore the culture of this planet and what each city had to offer,
Mhm.
which was really cool to me and really fun to do. So yeah.
Now, when and or where can we find Egatu?
So Igatu is actually being queried right now. I think that there's a huge chance, not a huge chance, but there's a good chance that I may end up indie publishing it.
Uh-huh.
So right now it's just about following me. So if you follow my Instagram, my TikTok, and then my newsletter, so my Patreon and Substack are like my newsletters.
Mhm.
So my Patreon is just like Melanin and Magic Productions, and then my Substack is let me find out. I think it's yeah, it's my first and last name. So KYLASYL as in Victor ERS. So those are like the two things that I use sort of for newsletters. I have like um emails. You can email me at Melon Magic Productions if you want me to email you through there. But Substack and Patreon are like a big way to like keep up with it. Like my Patreon is also a big way to keep up with the podcast because I do early releases there and stuff. And you can join for free if you don't want to pay for it, just so you can like be able to keep up with announcements, you know. So it's not mandatory that you pay for Patreon, and it's not mandatory that you pay for Substack. But those are the ways to like keep up with the work while also keeping up with what I'm active with right now, which is the pod. So yeah.
So she's gonna give me all the links to that, and I'm gonna put it down here below.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, you've had meetings with major players like Hillman Grad and White Oak.
Mm-hmm.
What did those rooms teach you about what the industry says it wants versus what it actually responds to?
Ooh. Um, I'm gonna will it back a tiny, tiny bit. So my reps at the time, they only sent this pilot to 5 production companies,
Mm-hmm.
right? Mind you, this pilot was like a semifinalist for Sundance, a semi-pilot finalist for Macro. It was in all these major competitions. They only sent it to 5 production companies. 2 of them responded. And the entertainment industry, those are amazing odds, right? So I remember meeting with a different agent later. They really only repped comedies, but they were doing a favor for my friend by meeting with me, and because they did really like one of my pilots. And I remember they said to me, I have a pilot from one of my clients that I really believe in. I sent it to 10 production companies. I
Uh-huh.
didn't hear back from one. He was like, but I know this pilot's good and I know that it can go places. So I sent it to 10 more production companies.
Okay.
He was like, there's no reason that they only sent it to 5 and you heard back from 2 that they shouldn't have continued sending that.
Yeah.
He was like, that's incredible odds. He was like, and there's no reason that they should be holding you back. So, and both of the meetings with those production companies went well. One thing I noticed, I can't remember the person from White Oak as much,
Mm-hmm.
but I remember like the one from Hillman Grad. Also, Hillman Grad is Lena Waite's company, right? So the guy who met with me was Asian, right? So there's another thing I noticed. Other people of color are more likely to champion you
Mm-hmm.
in these rooms, right? Whether they be Black, whether they be Asian, Brown Latinos, they are more likely to champion you. My reps were mostly a white team,
Mm-hmm.
not so much. So people, I think that a bad agent or manager could make or break your career more than any executive or production company can. They can too, right? They can choose to not buy your stuff. They can choose to shelve your stuff. There could be a bunch of things that happen there too. But a lot of people lose opportunities at the representation. Because if you don't have representation who understands you,
Mm-hmm.
who sees your vision, and who believes in it enough to constantly be fighting for it. That other agent, he believed in his person's pilot enough to send it to 20 people
Mm-hmm.
without hearing back, right? they sent mine to 5 and they heard back from 2.
Mm-hmm.
And they still didn't send it to more people.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Because I guess that wasn't enough for them, right? So it becomes a thing of, I think that there are, of course, when it comes to production companies, of course, there are going to be other people of color who are advocating for you. But I think that there are those people there, right, who want to advocate for you. But how can you get there if the representation is blocking you from getting there? And the only way that you can get there is through representation. But the person representing you
Girl.
doesn't actually represent you properly. I got my WWE job myself
Wow.
through a friend of mine,
Mm-hmm.
right? A best friend of mine who helped me get that job because I had already placed in a bunch of competitions and I did have reps,
Mm-hmm.
right? But I ended up getting that job myself. So, like, I always tell people, like, no reps are better than bad ones, or maybe I don't tell people that enough. No reps are better than bad ones because, and this was like a major company. So that's another thing too. Like, people think that if you sign to a major company, that your career is just going to take off. That's not always true, especially for people of color. Because if those people do not know how to sell you and do not understand you, it does not matter. Right. And so
Yeah.
these were people that, my other pilot that they were supposed to send off, that was a great pilot. They wanted me to change it so much that I didn't even recognize it towards the end. Like, it had to like shelve that. And this was a pilot, again, that pilot top 50 for this competition, top 20 for this. Like, again, all of these. And that had a proof of concept film. That's the film that screened at 50 cinemas. That's the film that got me into Essence magazine. That's the film that did all these things. And yet,
Wow.
the
Wow.
pilot, you want me to alter it so much, and even the pilot itself has gotten all this recognition. So it doesn't matter if the people who are representing you do not understand you. These were the people who said to me, we need to change this, and this so that the white executives understand. Instead of just trying to send it to the white executives.
Mhm.
What a
Yeah,
concept.
that's why I was like, did y'all have to send it for that? Like I said, other fantasies where someone's created this world and language and maps and culture, and you're like, you don't ask them, hey, I don't understand this. You just go, oh, this is epic. This is great. Let's do it.
And mind
But
you, the executives, these companies, they're going to give you notes anyway. They're going to want you to change this, and this.
yeah,
Do you know how many of our white counterparts sell mediocre scripts? Sell ideas and not even actually scripts?
the ones that we see on TV and
Yes.
they get
Sell
a chance to
movies
develop.
based on their successful proof of concepts. I had a successful proof of concept. I had not a mediocre script, a pretty great one, So it's like, you can have all your ducks in a row, and it does not matter if the people do not see you, right? And they did not see me, right? And then it's so hard to get seen by other reps, and then you have to start the process all over again,
Mhm.
right? So, you know, it's so I think when it comes to like what the industry says that they want and what they actually want, I think there are just like there's so much misinformation because there's many different levels to the gatekeepers, but agents and managers are also gatekeepers, and I don't think people realize that. And like, I think I was on Threads or something the other day, and people were talking about celebrities who are deemed mean, and people were saying, like, they've met a lot of these, and of course I've met a lot of celebrities too, and they're like, a lot of these celebrities, not all of them, but a decent amount of them are not actually mean. It's their representation who is, right? Who like
I heard that
tell
too. Yeah.
who tell people you can't talk to them, or you can't do this, or you can't do that. Meanwhile, the actor is like, oh my God, thank you so much. So a lot, these agents, these managers, yes, these executives as well, it really, like, and actors talk about it all the time, especially Black actors. Again, there's great Black writers, how we were just saying, whose scripts never get in the door, and there are Black actors who are looking for those scripts, and they're only sent like these small roles and these white stories, and there's a whole vast world of scripts out there that don't even land on their desk
Mm-hmm.
because their representation is not giving it to them.
Yes.
Right? So it just becomes this like vicious cycle of like, yes, it can be the executives, but sometimes it's also the people who are supposed to be representing you because they don't know how to represent you.
Yeah.
And if there aren't enough Black agents and managers, and yes, also Black executives, then you're going to continue to run into a lot of the same problems. Sorry, I hope I didn't go on a whole rant, but yes.
No, I mean, I think the audience, especially any newcomers into this industry, and I hate using the word newcomer because I
Mm-hmm.
feel like if you've written something and got to the finish line, you are a writer. So
Right. Oh, I agree. I
it doesn't
agree.
matter if you published or anything. It doesn't matter if a person bought it or anything. You are a writer.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Writer.
I
You
completely
got
agree.
to the end, or you got to fade to black.
Mm-hmm.
You did that. You're
Yeah.
right.
Mm-hmm.
So, but Kayla, what is up next for you?
Ooh, up next for me, I think right now. So I have a short film
Mhm.
that I'm trying to make a very small one. That's a science fiction. That's about this couple that gets into this argument and then something dire happens that changes them
Mhm.
forever. It's called You're Forgiven. So I'm trying to make that. There's a feature I'm trying to make down the road, which is like a dystopian romance. But I think my major focus right now is continuing to grow this podcast because it actually is growing. It's consistent listeners, it's doing really well. So to continue on that path, continue with the book, and just really sort of transition back into being a full-time artist. I've gone through like waves of being one. Of course, when I was at WWE, I was a full-time artist, and there are other times where I've been like full-time freelance and stuff like that. So I think right now it's about building this podcast and building this book so that I can fully transition
Yeah.
into full-time uh artistry again. So yeah, that's what I'm focused on. And that's what's next. Yeah.
I'm excited to hear or see you just rise and see you become or do and open the doors that have been shut. I'm excited about listening to your podcast. I'm excited about following you. I'm so very grateful that you decided to come on How Would You Write It? But before you roll out on me,
Okay.
I have to ask a How Would You Write It question.
Okay, go for it.
If you owned the very last Blockbuster video store and a
Uh-huh.
customer came in and asked for recommendations of two IPs, what would those recommendations be?
TV or movie?
Either or.
Not fair. I want to offer something. I'm like, oh my God. Okay, I know. Okay, so first and foremost, I have to offer my favorite movie, The Prestige, um, by Christopher Nolan. I think that movie does a brilliant job of observing obsession.
You said the
What
beach?
The Prestige,
The
girl.
prestige.
The
Oh, yes,
Prestige.
the prestige.
Yes.
Okay, I get you on
Yes.
that one.
Yes.
Yes.
So this is one of my like that is my favorite movie. And I love its observation of obsession and what people are willing to give up um to be successful, and the sacrifices that they make, the
Mhm.
relationships that they sacrifice, whether that's romantic, whether that's friendship, and kind of how those things can get lost in an effort to reach the top and be the best.
Yes.
And that movie, even in knowing the twist,
Mhm.
that movie does such a good job and is one of the best twists ever in any film. That movie does such a good job of observing that. And I think when they're magicians in the movie, right?
Yeah.
Especially when you're pursuing like an entertainment career, it's so competitive and it can become so like volatile. and some people do risk close friendships or romances in order to reach a certain level. And so I think that that movie does an excellent job of speaking on why that is not necessarily a good thing.
If you have seen The
um,
Prestige, I suggest you watch it. It is a beautifully crafted, well acted, great storytelling movie.
yes,
Now,
yes.
what's your second IP?
Okay. So I'm going to go with the comic book route, and I will say why. I was going to say Avengers Infinity War because I do truly think that's the best Marvel movie, but I want to go with something black. So we're going to go with the first Black Panther.
Oh,
Uh,
yeah,
and
I still yet ever since he passed, I still can't watch him in anything.
that's
Yeah.
fair.
And that was
That's
one of my
fair.
favorite comfort movies. I was
Yeah,
just feeling, yeah.
I think for me, like that, I think that was like one of the like celebrity deaths that like hit me the hardest, like for sure, for sure.
Rest in peace.
Um, yeah, I think I would recommend Black Panther because I love the way that it observes blackness
Yeah,
and like that exploration of like what it's like to be like an African American versus like an African
yeah.
and that conversation that they were having with those two things I think was like very 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 well done, let alone to be able to fit in a comic book movie.
Mhm.
So I really liked that element of it. Everyone's also hot.
Yeah.
Everyone's hot. So that is everyone's like a great actor. The costumes are nice. The directing's nice. All of these things. And so I really think that like if you want to like both have fun
Mhm.
and kind of see like the cultural significance of it and some of the like major conversations that are happening
Mhm.
um between like in the African in the black diaspora. I think that's like a great movie that sort of achieves both of those things. And I really appreciated it for that because it's easy to just make something comic booky, and those things I think are a lot of fun too,
Uh-huh.
but there's something like really extra and interesting when we make it both comic booky and like socially relevant. You know what I
Yes.
mean? So
Yeah.
I really, really, really like that Black Panther movie. So good, so much, so much, so much. So, and I
I
love
like
Ryan
both.
Coogler.
I like The Prestige and Black Panther. I'm with you on that.
Yes.
But Kayla, I want to thank you so much again for
Thank
coming
you for
on.
having me.
How would you write it? You are welcome back anytime. And like I
Thank
said, I
you.
see your star just rising and just keep going. Like I just keep going because I love to see a black woman into sci-fi, a black woman knowing her worth and loving her people and wanting their stories to be told, even if it's in the fantasy drama.
Mhm.
I love that. Like I said, you are welcome back anytime. And
Thank
to my
you.
audience, I'm sorry, I'm losing my voice a little bit. As Kayla has just expressed and told us, like, if the door is closed, that doesn't stop you from continuing on using this gift that you were blessed with and finding a way to either get through the door, out the window, build a table, build a ladder, build your own.
Yeah.
And with that, I'm going to say, we'll see you next time on How Would You Write It?